Welcome back everybody, I'm J Ray and this is J Ray's DIY. And in this video we're going over a dust collection system that I just put in my shop because I'm tired of being covered from head to toe in dust whenever I'm done cutting some boards on my table saw or if I'm jointing or planing. If you think that you have to spend a lot of money on a dust collection system, go ahead and dislike, unsub, and move on from this video. But if you're here to learn how to build a relatively inexpensive dust collection system in your shop, hit that thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, hit the bell notification so that you don't miss out on future content from my channel, and keep watching this video because this whole dust collection system that I got can be made for less than $300, including purchasing the dust collector itself that came with the bag and the 1 horsepower motor and the hoses and adapters and everything that I've got here other than the plywood. The plywood, hopefully you've got some scraps like I did and you can build this system relatively inexpensive in your shop. So we'll get into the video right now. I'm going to show you the components that I used, how I mounted them, and what I did on my tools here in order to collect the dust in an efficient manner. Been doing a lot of research lately about dust collectors, and Harbor Freight's dust collectors keep coming up in videos and research online when I've been looking into what to get. This one here is not the one that I was initially looking at. I was looking at getting a 2 horsepower dust collector from Harbor Freight. Unfortunately, at this time, they do not have it in stock, and it looks like it's going to be several months before they get it back in stock online. So I found that my local Harbor Freight had this one in stock. It's about $150, so it's a lot cheaper than the 2 horsepower one, which is about $210. But unfortunately, this one does not come with a hose. So to compensate for that, I ended up getting this kit right here. This dust collector accessory kit that Harbor Freight had. And it comes with 2 hoses that are each 10 foot in length. Comes with a Y adapter. Comes with 2 blast gates. 2 adapters that are 6" by 6", and then it comes with one a little bit larger that says it's made for table saws. So I'm going to get into unboxing these and see how they look. Well, here we have it. It's pretty simple. The dust collector itself came with the bag. It came with 1 hose clamp. Came with an adapter and an O-ring gasket, not really an O-ring, but a gasket for that adapter to mount on the edge of it right there. And then now the adapter kit. Here's the adapters that come with. It does have everything that it shows on the package. It's got the big plate that they say is good for table saws. 2 blast gates right here. They're made of plastic, which, you know, it would be nice if they were a better material. Like I've seen some aluminum blast gates online, but they'll work for my purposes. I don't have a whole lot of tools and equipment that I'm going to be using this with, so it should be good for me. And then you get the 2 adapters from the 4" hose down to some dust collection that you can put on your tools. It also came with 10 of these clamps right here. They're not the best style clamps. They have a little bolt on them, so anytime you want to tighten or loosen these clamps up, you're going to have to be using a screwdriver or a socket. Also, they're just wire clamps. They got 2 wires on each clamp. Let me go ahead and pull one up. I'll show you a little bit better view. So these have 2 wires that go around, and then this clamp tightens up when you tighten this bolt right here. It pushes this plate out and brings these in closer together. Now this little blower by itself, it's pretty interesting. It came assembled like this. It's got 4 wheels on it, little handle. It's pretty lightweight, easy to pick up and move around. Only a couple things. I'm not sure if I want to use that bag that came with it, because I've seen some better designs for dust collection systems that don't have a bag on them. And then also on the inside of this right here, I'm not sure how well, yeah, you can see it. It's got that mesh inside there, and I've heard and read on some forums that that mesh screen in there can get plugged up real easy if any kind of dust and debris get in there. So probably one of the first things I'm going to do is take this apart and take that mesh screen out of it. Right here you can see I took the cover off. The screen material right here doesn't look like they made it real easy. It looks like they either stamped it or welded it on right here. So I'm going to see if I can pry this off, or I might just have to take a pair of pliers, diagonal cutters or something, and just snip these off as far as I can towards the inside. That way I can have as smooth of an opening as possible coming into this. One other thing I noticed about this is this lip inside here. Right around here. I'm not sure I like that because I think that could impede airflow. Especially if your hose goes on the outside of this. I think debris and everything could be hitting this lip and then causing some turbulence going inside here. So I think what I want to do next is cut a little bit of this off. Just take this lip off right here. Got a pretty good distance right here, so I might just trim it off just a little bit around here and get rid of that lip. I think the easiest way for me to do that though is to go ahead and put it back on the blower and then use my portaband and cut that lip off. Alright, now I got that lip cut off of there and I filed it off with a file. I use a half round file on the inside and I just use the flat part on the outside to get it a little bit smooth. So now you can run your fingers across it, it won't hurt you. But it's going to have a hose on it all the time anyway when I'm using it, so it's not really a big deal. The next thing I want to do is look at this adapter that it came with. Now this also has grating in it, and this is the outlet. It goes right here on this side. So I think that's probably another area that could be causing restriction of airflow. So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get this grating out of the inside of here, and I'll let you know how I do that as soon as I'm done. That baffle in there broke out pretty easy. I just tapped on it with a pair of pliers and then I used a file to try to clean up some of the edges on the inside. But I think that's going to give me a lot better airflow. So I'm going to go ahead and get this on there and use the gasket and then bolts that were provided. So they provided these bolts with washers, flat washers, and then these nylock nuts. So you got to pay attention though, because one of the nuts is a lot shorter than what the other ones are. So we got to make sure that we get it in the right place. So I ended up putting the short bolt on this bottom corner right here, but I think that actually was a mistake. I think they were all supposed to be the same length because it looks like we got the same amount of space all the way around this whole bracket in order to put these on. I'm going to go ahead and grab a ratchet and a wrench so I can tighten these up. They're 10mm. Alright, I got that tightened up. So next thing I want to do is try a test and just plug it in, see if this thing works, see how hard it blows out of this end, and see how much suction we got over here. I don't have any kind of fancy measuring tools, so I'm just going to have to go off of feel. Now the moment we've all been waiting for, I've got it plugged in. I'm going to go ahead and turn this on for a little preliminary run and see how hard it blows. Hopefully it's better than my shop vac. I think that is definitely better than a shop vac. I could feel it pulling on my hand as soon as I got just part way over the opening there, and it was wanting to pull my hand right up against it. And then on the outlet there, it feels like it's pushing out a lot of air. But reviews on this say that they're pretty good, so we'll see how it does in the shop with collecting dust after we can get a system assembled. So here's a little overview of how the dust collector system turned out. I forgot to record any of the assembly, putting this stuff together, mounting it to the wall, things like that, but I want to give you an overview of what I did. So First of all, I do have the joiner and the planer sitting on my table saw at the moment, just because I wanted to show you what I did for the dust collection ports on them. So the table saw itself, I got a 1 4-inch port on the bottom of it. It used to have just a bag hanging down off of there, so I ended up having to take it off and making a flange. What I ended up doing is cutting a piece of plywood, which is underneath this tape right here. So I ended up cutting a piece of plywood. Sorry if this shot's a little weird. This is looking underneath my table saw. What you see is a piece of plywood that I've took this 12x12 plate, adapter plate that came in the kit from Harbor Freight, and I ended up making that plate and bolting it to there, run a bead of silicone around the edges, and got this 4-inch hose connected to it on the bottom, right there. The next tool I have is this Porter cable benchtop joiner. It's a 6-inch wide deck on it. Now what I end up doing is cutting a piece of plywood to put on the end here. I did take off, it had a 2-inch port that came with the joiner. I had to take that off, and that was on the bottom, and there was a metal plate on the top. I had to take both those off, and then I made this plate just with a piece of 3/4-inch plywood, bolted it to there, and then used this adapter piece that came with the Harbor Freight kit to the 4-inch hose. I don't have this tightened down, so we can pull it off. I can show you what the inside looks like. So, looking at the end here, you can see I kind of shaped the plywood to the adapter, try to make it as wide of an opening as I could, and I think it turned out pretty well. But the last time that I used this with my shop vac with the 2-inch port on it, I noticed that it really wasn't doing anything, and all the shavings were still getting thrown all over the place and on me. And when I took that 2-inch port off and the metal plate, I noticed that the whole inside, this right here, was just packed full. It was just packed full of shavings. So it's a good thing that I took that off. And now I've used this a couple times with this 4-inch adapter and the new Harbor Freight dust collector, and it's working pretty well, and it's staying pretty clean on the inside of it. So when the dust collector is connected to this and you don't have it plugged in, you can actually hear the air flowing through the machine, and you can put your hand on top of it and you can feel air going down by the blades. So I think this is doing really well. And this is my thickness planer, and you kind of see the same theme on the back of it already right there, but I'll take you to the other side to show you what I did to make this dust collector. I know it's not the prettiest, but I built this box on the back of this thickness planer and used the 4-inch adapter that came in the Harbor Freight kit. Run a bead of silicone around before I screwed this in place, and this is doing really well. For my purposes, there's still a little bit of chips and dust that come out the front, but it captures almost probably 99% of everything that comes out the rear of this, where before it would just throw shavings everywhere, front, rear, and all over the ground and all over the shop. And this is where my dust collector is residing. Currently it's behind that cloth right there. You can see the 3 trash cans on the bottom. The one on the left is actually just a trash can, but the other 2 are dust separators. So I'll go ahead and get behind that curtain and show you that. So from the tools coming in here, got the flex hoses connected to these 2 blast gates. That way I can control whether it's taking suction from the table saw or one of the other tools, or I can use the hose just on the floor just to clean up any extra dust that got on the floor. They're both going into this Y adapter into the side of the bucket. Now, if you're like me, you've probably done some research on dust collection and trying to figure out what the best system is for your shop. And this bucket right here, which is just mounted to the top of the regular trash can lid, actually inside there I made my own thine baffle, which what that does, it separates the dust out before it comes out the top port. It spins the air around in a circle, and the heavy particles fall down to the bottom into the bin, and then the cleaner air can come up to the top, but it also does pass some finer particles. So next to that, you can see that plywood lid right there, and it gets 2 hoses coming in it. I made that like a cyclone separator. So what this does, it just takes the dust in one port, spins the air around, and then the dust comes out the other port. And then coming out of that, I'll have to move around and show you the motor. Coming up out of these hoses, I mounted the motor to the wall. And currently I've got the bag mounted to it, and it's just blowing out between the stairs. But there's not really anything getting to the bag currently, so may end up taking that off at some point. But for now, it's working and suiting my purposes and doing a great job on collecting the dust. So this is my first attempt at making a dust collection system. I think it's working out pretty well so far for my shop. One difference that I would like to make at one point in the future is to go ahead and make a top arm dust collection for my table saw, because a lot of dust still does get thrown towards me while I'm cutting and towards that side of the table saw. It would be nice to have hard pipe around the shop and different stations set up everywhere, but this is just a 2-car garage and it's really not that big of a space I'm working in. So, and I do have to use this sometimes to work on my vehicles. So I don't have a whole lot of space, but these stairs provided me a good spot to hide the equipment. And then I got this moving blanket that just got screwed to the backside. Now I do have to disconnect and connect, you know, the jointer and the planer, you know, separately when I'm using them, but that's not really a big deal. For a small shop, it works out pretty well. That way I can put my tools away, bring them out when I need them. Now I do eventually want to make a rolling cart to mount them on, but that'll be another video. So that wraps up this video. That's all I've got. Let me know what you think below. And also, just one more thing. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, hit the bell notification so that you don't miss out on future content from my channel. So you know, this was a fairly inexpensive system. The motor and a dust collector bag that came with it, it comes on a set of wheels. I took the wheels off to mount it to the wall, but that was only like $160 for the 1 horsepower motor with the dust collector bag on it. And then the hose accessory kit, you know, I think it was about 60 bucks. So for less than $250, you can build a dust collection system for your shop, similar to what I've got here. I did have some scrap plywood, and I did already have the trash can bins. So yes, this was less than $250 for me to put this all together.